Mobility is one of the keys to longevity in training. Being mobile and being able to move freely will allow you to maximize your progress in anything you do, whether it's increasing the size of your muscles, building strength, developing skills, or just improving your posture. How much mobility you actually need depends on your specific goals and preconditions. A person who just wants to stay healthy and aim for good posture doesn't need to achieve a split or other advanced mobility and flexibility skills. However, there are some fundamental movements every person should be able to do, because everyone will benefit from them. They are like the basics of mobility. One of those movements is to raise your straight arms above your head while keeping your spine neutral. If you lack in shoulder mobility, you won't be able to build a straight and nearly vertical line with your arms and torso, but compensate it by extending your spine. This lack in mobility is also the main issue when people aren't able to hold a straight handstand or to do an overhead press without massively arching their backs. To work on your shoulder mobility, you just lay yourself on your stomach and lift your arms while you tilt your pelvis backwards and press your chest against the ground. This will ensure that you only lift your arms and avoid to extend your spine. This looks way easier than it is, so if you aren't able to lift your arms yet, you can start on an object which will increase the distance between you and the ground a little bit. From there you can work your way up until you can do this exercise on the ground. Of course, it's also possible to do this exercise on the ground from the beginning, even if you can't raise your arms yet. As long as you tense your muscles and focus your mind on the tension, you will improve your mobility. Now we take a look at the spine. A good spine is stable but also mobile, no matter if you bend or extend it. The goal in this exercise is to build a C-shaped curve in both directions. But keep in mind that it's normal that you reach a greater range of motion in the flexion than in the extension. The third movement is touching your toes. You can do this while standing or sitting on the ground. It's not necessary to hold your back straight, because this movement is not only about leg and hip mobility and flexibility, but also about your spine mobility. If you aren't able to do this, you just start with your current range of motion and hold this position. Over time, you try to increase the range of motion step by step. The next thing you should be able to do is the active deep squat. The active deep squat is one of, if not the most natural human movement pattern. Nowadays, most people are used to sitting on chairs for many hours of the day. So it's no wonder why they lost their ability to squat deep. Often they can't get deeper than 90 degrees, and if they try, they compensate their lack of mobility and flexibility by lifting their heels, rounding their spine, letting their knees collapse inward, and moving their upper body forward instead of bending their hips and knees. To get better at the deep squat, we suggest you to practice exactly this position while holding yourself onto an object. In this way, you won't fall backward if you go deeper than you are used to. Hold this position to let your body adapt to it. Always remember to keep your spine straight, outward rotate your hips, and keep your heels on the ground. In this position, try to tense all muscles that keep you from falling backward, like the tibialis anterior and the hip flexors. Now we are coming back to the shoulder. If you should be able to raise your arms above your head, you should also be able to move them in the opposite direction. Grab a stick about shoulder wide and extend your shoulders as much as possible. The goal is to extend your arms to about 60 degrees. If you can't reach this position, you can hold your current position and try to increase the range of motion every time you do it. Another way to increase your range of motion in this movement is by sitting on the ground and push yourself forward while your hands stay on the ground. Here you also try to increase the range of motion from workout to workout, step by step. In general, mobility is something that needs time, and sometimes it might feel like you won't move forward. But this is normal and necessary to improve over time. The last recommendation is about the wrists. Your wrist should be mobile, but also strong. First, we take a look at the wrist extension. If you get wrist problems from doing push-ups on the ground, but also harder exercises like handstands, you should work on your wrist flexibility and stability by reducing the pressure at the beginning and increase it step by step by shifting your weight. In this way, you can adjust the amount of weight you apply to the wrists. With this method, you let the structures of your wrists time to adapt to the pressure. Over time, you can apply more weight by leaning forward or raising your knees from the ground and increase the pressure step by step. When it comes to the wrist flexion, you also apply pressure to it step by step. The only difference is that this position is much harder than the extension, so only apply a little bit pressure and do it dynamically in the beginning. The more you take your wrists away from your body and apart from each other, and the more you lean forward, the harder this exercise gets. Of course, there are many other ways and exercises to improve these movements and build a well-trained, mobile and healthy body. In our new mobility program, we go more into detail and address all of those points, no matter if you are a beginner or already pretty mobile. The program is divided into 3 levels and will come with mobility and flexibility flows, as well as single and locomotion exercises. Of course, we also included advanced mobility and flexibility training for exercises like splits, V-sit and press to handstand. So no matter if you want to improve your posture, work against imbalances and weak points, learn skills or recover from injuries, our mobility program will fit your needs. We also got a special deal for you. The first 50 customers get a 15% discount. Just use the code CaliMove-Mobility and get your mobility program now. If you have further questions, just leave a comment. Thanks, Alex.